But also one of the issues that he had raised with us was to explain the genesis of the Inkatha Inkululeko Yesizwe, explaining to us that in fact he had been assigned together with the president of the IFP, Dr. Buthelezi, to form an IFP as a front of the ANC that would in future work together to, as soon as we get to a particular point, and then work together to take over the country. Of course, all of us know things went wrong in the process. Dlangazo High School was set up as a center of excellence that drew capable students and teachers from all corners of South Africa. And thus growing up in Dlangazo heightened our understanding of a common South African citizenship in a manner that defeated the narrow and parochial view of ethnicity propagated during the apartheid era. This vision of the school under the leadership of Professor Pengu as the leader was quite a remarkable attribute itself for an educational institution of that era of homeland administration under KwaZulu government. This school built strong sense of values in students to be honest, hardworking, humble, respectful, approachable servants of our people. The school instilled in us deep values of Ubuntu and the expected conduct that would uplift the name of the school, our people, our country, and the continent of Africa. This was recited daily in the form of what was called the school code after every morning's devotions. The school prepared the students for leadership in society. The large number of professionals who are playing a prominent role in public service and in private sector who hail from this institution are a testament to the visionary leadership of Professor Pengu and the capable team of educators who have managed these institutions over the years. Several ministers of state, directors, generals, judges, professors, academics, legal practitioners, science and engineering, religious, health, education, policy and administrative experts of various descriptions populating the entire spectrum of our social, political and economic lives and other aspects of society are the evidence of all of this. Thus, the legacy of the visionary Professor Pengu that we salute today as we thank him and his family for his immense contribution. We salute you, Ngolos. We begin Ndugu Ebandla. This institution built partnership across the country, and it actually extended to different countries as well, where they were looking at possibilities of taking students to be trained for professions which were not open to black students during the days of apartheid. I think the strongest lesson from the life of Professor Pengu is that we need a strong commitment of educators who love their people, imbued with a passion for changing society, and are conscious of the critical role of education in achieving social, political, and economic transformation and true decolonization. What Professor instilled on his students was the enduring message that true freedom starts with the decolonization of the mind. The same message that came from Dr. Dube, who created Ohlanga Institute. And therefore we need to teach our youth that education will bring true freedom and true economic emancipation and create a society that will not only value but will also defend our democracy. Professor Pengu was very strong on the theme of decolonization, and this was well articulated in the thesis that he had done his PhD on, and then it was later translated to a book which was entitled Chasing Gods, Not Our Own. And here he was admonishing us about the persistence of psychological colonization amongst the African elite, who actually, instead of moving on but reflect their admiration of the symbols of colonial masters and still undermine their own heritage, their language, their cultures, instead of asserting their identity after attaining freedom. So Professor made us dream of this new, free, democratic country in our lifetime. And a lot of us got taken into that to get involved in the struggle. Of course, the school built balanced personalities using the culture of reading and learning, supplementing it with strong spirituality, undergirded by a strong Christian faith and a strong culture of sports, music, and recreational and other social development. Of course, the students will also think and remember some of the funny, maybe humorous rules of the school. Like, for example, in the school, there was a no smoking rule. You never smoked in school, but there was a smoking salon. And so if you smoked in the salon, you didn't break the rule. But if you were found with a cigarette anyway, you were in trouble. The boys were not allowed to talk to the girls, even siblings. Except for a 10-minute break, which we used to call the tuning break. And then, of course, you'll see a lot of movement within 10 minutes and boys and girls running around to talk to each other. And when the bell rings, everybody goes back to the disciplined, normal Zangezwa behavior. And my male students are not allowed at the female dormitory. Except once in a year, there was a tour which was guided where the girls would visit the boys and boys would visit the girls, and it happened once a year. And Professor Bengu used to also be very funny sometimes. He told us, he would sit down and tell us stories. And there's a story, Mama, which I never forget, which was told 50 years ago, but he was talking about a nice visit to a friend who was a French family. And they prepared nice food, and this was called fondue. And then, of course, everyone was happy to come and enjoy lunch. Until the young 5-year-old of the daughters walked into the kitchen and came back and said, "Hey, where ma bapegi mnenke?" And of course, Mama was, his day was finished, and she was just not going to have anything to do with him mnenke. And of course, Baba had to explain diplomatically the cultural diversity, etc., etc. And in the course of that, asked to taste just one snail. And what brought the students to stitches was the fact that Baba then said, "Hey, and everybody was shocked. So there were many such stories. He had raised with us was to explain the genesis of the Inkatha Inkululeko Yesizwe, explaining to us that in fact he had been assigned together with the president of the IFP, Dr. Buthelezi, to form an IFP as a front of the ANC that would in future work together to, as soon as we get to a particular point, and then work together to take over the country. Of course, all of us know things went wrong in the process, but actually, Honorable Ntuli, Professor Peng was a member of the African National Congress when he actually formed the IFP, and he was on an underground mission. And part of the reason why he had to leave was because the tension between the ANC members, with the IFP leaders, there were already differences with the tactics and the strategies, particularly with the students who were in Black Consciousness movement, who were not happy with the participation in the homeland system. Those tensions created a lot of difficulties for the leaders of Inkatha, and in the process, it caused a fallout, whereas Dr. Buthelezi and Dr. Bengu were very good friends, trusted each other as comrades. But in the course of this difference, the matter got out of hand until at some point, the special branch picked up this, and then of course they started following him. And in the process, the African National Congress advised him to actually move out into exile. I remember as a student here, one of the days when I was a member of the Science Student Society, we took a petition to complain about the professors who had actually caused a high failure rate on the year mark. And when we gave it to Professor Bengu, then he was, the other professors demanded that he must give them the names of the students who complained. And of course, he protected us. But then they went in and broke the office. They took out the petition and started investigating him. And all of this complicated his life, and then he left. There were many other reasons. But one of them was a problem. After 1976, I think Honorable Nzimande would recall, there was a lot of tension here. What we didn't know was that outside, people had actually come to Owesome from Felixton. And there were about 20 in Sizwa, and they with his induna saying, "Hayi Nkosi sicela izwe usidedele singene siyoshaya ixhwanguxhwangu kwezilapha ngaphakathi. But Professor Beck was invited by Nkosi Mkhwanazi and said, "Look, he's my advisor." And it is out of there that the diplomacy and the experience of Professor Beck in diffusing tensions arose. Whilst he was around, he was able to diffuse that, and of course Inkosi never issued instruction to attack, and the bloodbath was avoided. We know that later on in life, in this university, those tensions resulted in some of the students being killed. Professor Pengu worked out in the World Lutheran Federation, and that's where I used to be able to meet him when we were out in exile. And in the course of all of this, he used to explain how this was his assignment of going out to look for money, for food, for clothes, for money for defending political prisoners in the country, as well as students who needed to be given education. And this was all the work that he was doing under the auspices of the churches, and he continued to do that. I just want to say, as we get to this point, that Professor Pengu has made such a huge contribution to this liberation struggle, and I really feel it was quite befitting that he should be honored in the way he is being honored. But we want to say to all those who worked with him that we all remember him with his smile. Whether it was in disapproval or it was in support of what you did, he always gave you a smile, always calm, respectful. And this is one of the things that we taught us about humility in leadership and respecting the people that you work with. Simple, basic lessons that we learned from him. Today we say farewell. Baba, Olosi, Labazan. Situibegile induku ebandla. To the family, once again, sitinilana ngenxeba. uNkulunkulu anituduze. Thank you very much.